Welcome to the tutorials on Linux. This is first of the 18-part video series helping you become a Linux pro. So let's get started. So what is an operating system? Every time you switch on your computer, you see a screen where you can perform different activities like write, browse the internet, or watch a video. What is it that makes the computer hardware work like that? How does the processor on your computer know that you are asking it to run an MP3 file? Well, it is the operating system or the kernel which does this work. A kernel is the program at the heart of any operating system that takes care of fundamental stuff like letting hardware communicate with software. So to work on your computer, you need an operating system. In fact, you're using one as you read this on your computer. Now, you may have used popular operating systems like Windows, Apple OS X, but here we will learn what Linux is and what benefits it offers over other OS choices. So what is Linux and who created it? Linux is an operating system or a kernel which germinated as an idea in the mind of young and bright Linus Torvalds when he was a computer science student. He used to work on the Unix operating system and thought that it needed improvements. However, when his suggestions were rejected by the designers of Unix, he thought of launching an OS which will be receptive to the changes and modifications suggested by its users. So Linus devised a kernel named Linux in 1991, though he would need programs like File Manager, document editors, audio-video programs to run on it. Something as you have a cone but no ice cream on the top. As time passed by, he collaborated with other programmers in places like MIT and applications for Linux started to appear. So around 1991, a working Linux operating system with some applications was officially launched, and this was the start of one of the most loved and open source OS options available today. The earlier versions of Linux were not so user-friendly as they were in use by computer programmers, and Linus Torvalds never had it in mind to commercialize his product. This definitely curbed Linux's popularity as other commercially oriented operating system, Windows, got famous. Nonetheless, the open source aspect of the Linux operating system made it more robust. But now, Linux has got its due attention. The main advantage of Linux was that programmers were able to use the Linux kernel in order to design their own custom operating systems. This has now made Linux one of the most popular and widely used kernel, and it is the backbone of popular operating systems like Debian, Ubuntu, and Fedora. The list doesn't end here, as there are thousands of operating systems based on Linux which offer a variety of functions to the users. So what are the benefits of using Linux? Linux now enjoys popularity at its prime, and it's famous among programmers as well as regular computer users around the world. Its main benefit is that it offers a free operating system. You do not have to shell hundreds of dollars to get the operating system like Windows. Other benefits are, being open source, anyone with programming knowledge can modify it. The Linux operating systems now offer millions of programs and applications to choose from, most of them free. Once you have Linux installed, you no longer need an antivirus. Linux is a highly secure system. More so, there is a global development community constantly looking at ways to enhance its security. With each upgrade, the operating system becomes more secure and robust. Linux is the operating system of choice for several environments due to its stability and reliability. Mega companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google use Linux for their servers. A Linux-based server could run non-stop without a reboot for years on end. So is it for you? Users who are new to Linux usually shun it by falsely considering it as a difficult and technical operating system to operate. But to state the truth, in the last few years, Linux operating systems have become a lot more user-friendly than their counterparts like Windows. So trying them is the best way to know whether Linux suits you or not. I am asked to learn Unix, then why Linux? Unix is the mother of the operating systems, which laid out the foundation to Linux. Unix is designed mainly for mainframes and used in enterprises and universities, while Linux is fast becoming a household name for computer users, developers, and server environment. You may have to pay for a Unix kernel, while in Linux it is free. But the commands used on both the operating systems are usually the same. There is not much difference between Unix and Linux. Though they might seem different, at core they are essentially the same, since Linux is a clone of Unix. So learning one is same as learning another. This was a short introduction to Linux. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next tutorial. Welcome to the video tutorial on selecting a Linux distribution and types of installation. Now that we know what Linux is, it is time we learn how we should install it on the computer and choose which distribution we should use. Let us start by understanding what a Linux distribution is. Well, now as you know that Linux is an open source free-to-use kernel, it is used by programmers, organizations, profit and non-profit companies around the world in order to create operating systems to suit their individual requirements. These versions, types, kinds of Linux operating systems are called distributions or distros. So how many distributions are out there? There are hundreds of Linux operating systems or distributions available these days. Many of them are designed with a specific purpose in mind. For example, to run a web server or to run network switches like routers or modems. The latest example of one of the most popular smartphone-based Linux distribution is Android. So let us learn about some popular Linux distros. Starting with Arch Linux, this Linux distro is popular amongst developers. It is an independently developed system. It is designed for users who go for a do-it-yourself approach. The next is the CentOS. It is one of the most used Linux distribution for enterprises and web servers. It is a free enterprise class operating system and is based heavily on Red Hat Enterprise distro. The next is Gentoo. It is a source-based distribution, which means you need to configure the code on your system before you can install it. It is not for Linux beginners, but it sure is fun for experienced users. Linux Mint. It is one of the most popular desktop distributions available out there. It launched in 2006 and is now considered to be the fourth most used operating system in the computer world. Next is Ubuntu. This is the third most popular desktop operating system after Microsoft Windows and Apple Mac OS. It is based on Debian Linux distribution and it is known for its desktop environment. So which one is the best Linux distribution? Well, each Linux distribution is built for a specific purpose to meet the demands of its target users. Most of the distributions are available for free at their respective websites. You might want to try them one by one till you get to know which distribution you like the most. Each one of them offers its unique design, applications, and security. We will be using Ubuntu for our learning purpose as it's easy for a beginner to understand. Now let us look at the various methods we can use to install Linux. The first type of installation is from the USB stick. This is one of the easiest methods of installing Ubuntu or any other Linux distribution on your computer. So let us start with the USB stick installation. For this, you are going to need the Ubuntu ISO or OS files. You can download them by visiting ubuntu.com/download/desktop. Let's visit this page. As you can see here, there are two versions of Ubuntu available free for download. Let us go ahead and download Ubuntu 12.10. The second software that you are going to need is a program which will install the Ubuntu ISO files on the USB stick. So for this, you can install the universal USB installer available for free at pendrivelinux.com. So let us go ahead and download it. So once you have the Ubuntu ISO files and the universal USB installer downloaded on your computer, it's time to run the universal USB installer. The first step is about selecting a Linux distro. The drop-down menu here shows the list of different distributions and their versions. We will choose Ubuntu 12.10. Next, you need to click on Browse, and here we have the Ubuntu 12.10 ISO files on the desktop. So go ahead and click on it. Now you need to choose the USB flash drive. So let us go ahead and click on this drop-down menu here. It shows that we have a USB stick mounted on the drive I. So let's select it. Now if you want to format the USB flash drive before it installs Ubuntu, you can click on Format the drive. Then click on Create. You would get a pop-up message informing you that the universal USB installer will work on the following actions. Click on Yes. Then the universal USB installer program will start moving the Ubuntu ISO files to the USB stick. Once done, you have the USB stick ready with Ubuntu to install it on your system. So let us go ahead and click on Close. Now your USB stick is an installation media with Ubuntu on it. Now you can boot your computer through this USB stick and you would be able to run Ubuntu without installation. The second method of installation is by live CD. This is another effective way of installing Linux on your system. For this, you again need to visit ubuntu.com/download/desktop in order to download the ISO files. Once you're done with the download and you have Ubuntu installation files on your computer, burn them to a CD and then you need to boot your computer through the optical drive and follow the instructions as they come. The next and the most popular method to install a Linux operating system is virtual installation. It offers you the freedom of running Linux on an existing operating system already installed on your computer. This means if you have Windows or Mac OS running, then you can just run Linux with a click of a button. Virtual machine software like Oracle VM can install Ubuntu in easy steps. Let us look at them. Again, you first need to download the Ubuntu ISO files on your computer. Then you need to download the installation files for Oracle VM VirtualBox. As we are running on Windows right now, we will go ahead and download these files. So let us download and install Oracle VM on the computer. Once done, you need to click on the VirtualBox icon on your desktop, and this is the screen that would open. Then you need to configure the virtual operating system by clicking on New, which will create a new virtual machine. You can have multiple OS installations in your virtual machine at the same time. Then click on Next. Type in a name for your virtual machine and then choose the operating system and the version that you would like to install. Click Next and define the memory size for the virtual machine. Right now, the memory allocated for the virtual machine is 512 MB. You can always increase the base memory size for the virtual machine. Then click on Next. Create a new hard disk. This does not create a new drive like C, D or E in your machine. Instead, it creates a VDI, which is a virtual disk image. This virtual disk will contain your OS installation. Click on Next and you will find that there are many options to create a virtual disk. Choose VDI, which is VirtualBox Disk Image. Select between dynamically allocated or fixed size virtual disk storage. A dynamically allocated virtual disk file will only use space on your physical hard disk, which is used by your VM installation. while fixed size will use the entire allocated space in your physical hard drive. Click on Next. Define the location for virtual disk file on your physical hard drive and the file size. The recommended file size is 10 GB. Click on Next. You are then shown a summary screen. Click on Create. And this is the virtual machine that we created. So let's go ahead and power the virtual machine. This will boot Ubuntu on VirtualBox. Now let's go ahead and install Ubuntu. If you want to download updates while installing, you can check this tick box. Let's click on Continue. So if you want to go ahead and install Ubuntu directly, you can choose this option here. It will not affect the hard drive, instead will only erase the virtual disk that you have created. Otherwise, if you want to work on the partitions, you can choose something else. Let's go ahead with Erase Disk and install Ubuntu right now and click on Continue.